Welcome to the first official gathering of the Horse Wisdom Virtual Book Club. I'm so excited. And I got a great group of folks with me here tonight to kick this off. As we get started, I just want to say a little bit about what the book club is about for those of you who couldn't join tonight or have been thinking about joining us on one of these live meetings, but maybe wasn't sure what to expect. This is meant to be just a really casual gathering way for us to all get together and kind of build and nurture a community. If you got anything at all out of reading Horse Wisdom, I hope you got the importance of community and just how valuable that is in our lives. So this is one way that we can build a really intentional community, but it's meant to be casual. So come as you are, bring a snack, bring your tea, bring a cocktail. I don't care, like whatever it takes for you to get here, doesn't matter. We're going to try to keep these to about an hour and 15 minutes probably, so that they're not super long. I will always be recording them and posting them back for the rest of the members who couldn't participate at a particular time can watch it later. And I know there's many people who said they wanted to watch this one back. But so it's a casual place. It's meant to build community. And beyond that, the real purpose of this book club is to dive deeper into the lessons and the wisdom from the book. I didn't just write this book so that it would be a fun read and then it gets put on a shelf and it never gets picked up again. Like, I hope it is a fun read. I hope it's an enjoyable read. I did work hard to make it a good read, so I hope it was. But again, if it gets put on the shelf, that honestly, it won't serve the purpose that I hope this book will serve and that I think the horses want it to serve. So if we in this group can kind of lead by example in just digging a little deeper and seeing, are there ways that we can together talk about how do we incorporate some of this wisdom, some of these lessons into our lives individually and as a society, right? It's not something that can happen quickly. So horse wisdom isn't something that's like one and done. We're going to have one discussion and we're going to know exactly what to do, to make the world a better place. It's going to take a lot of different conversations and times of getting together and digging deeper. But at the same time, I really do feel that the situation that we're in as humanity is kind of precarious right now, and that there isn't a whole lot of time to waste if we really want to make some changes that will benefit the next generations of humanity. So I think it's important. I think the timing is now to start having some of these conversations. So that's what the book club is about. And tonight, what we're going to do, I'm going to have the folks who are with me tonight introduce themselves real quickly. Again, part of this is building community. So it won't always be the same participants at every book club meeting, but over time, there'll be a lot of you who are here repeatedly and you'll get to know each other. So we're going to start with those quick introductions. I'm just going to have you introduce yourselves in the order you are on my screen, and then we'll open it up into larger discussion. But Anya, you are first on my screen. So go ahead and introduce yourself. I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, my name is Anya Kane, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina, not far from Kim. I do know Peggy, also from a former virtual experience. And if Anna is Anna Fox, then I'm also familiar with her through virtual retreats that Kim has hosted in the past. I think, Barbara, you are the only person I don't know. I think, Kate, we have also met before. So yeah, I'm a therapeutic riding instructor here at Charleston Area Therapeutic Riding in Charleston. And I'm particularly, of course, through my work is how I'm connected with Kim. We just did a presentation in person in Aiken last weekend.
Yes, it was great.
Really about a lot of the stuff that is also in the book. And maybe briefly, what I would like to say is that in the past, I had terrible experience with book club. So, and I think that this will be very different though. And
I hope so.
I'm very much looking forward to the digging deeper aspect of it. Yeah, and I'm not finished with the book, but I thought I'm still here. I'm
Great.
still gonna show up and just hear what everybody has to say about it.
Thank you, Anya. I'm even more excited that you're here, given that you've had a bad book club experience in the past. I haven't done a lot of book clubs, so actually I don't have any rules about this, and I'm open to suggestions about how we can make it better, more user-friendly, or more meaningful for you. So I don't have a preconceived notion of how it needs to go. But thank you for being here, Anya. All right, so let's go to Barbara. I think you'll have to unmute yourself too.
I cough and make all kinds of noises and nonverbal, and I realized, so I got to mute myself. So to Anya's point, I needed 2 separate pep talks just to have enough guts to be on here at all. So you're in, I don't want to say good company, but in maybe common company, whatever. But I was in a good mood today, and it worked anyway. But I honestly feel like I would not be here if it weren't for the horses. And I found myself, yes, right now my heart's racing a little bit. I don't love doing introductions, but a year ago I would have been like, why the heck would I do such an unsafe thing? Like, I don't know these people. And I also would have been practicing, what am I going to say? And instead this time I literally didn't have to think about it. My natural reaction was, this is going to be really interesting. And what's this experience going to be like? And if there's nothing that the horses have, if there's one thing the horses have really inspired me to do, it's just being in the present, which is not my normal way of being. But my name is Barbara. I'm born and still in southeastern Pennsylvania, and I did finish the book, but only because I rushed it, because it was the kind of easy read. Like I keep saying, it's easy to read, but the content is very intense. And I knew I could go back and savor it and do it more slowly later, but because I was able to, and I was already halfway through, I did finish it. But again, because kind of I was in anticipation of being here, and I would say I'm a horse enthusiast. But what's important, the most important thing is I have access to a herd now of 9. One, I don't want to say I own him, but I did purchase, I'm responsible for Leo. But just like today, and I'm getting chills, I got to interact with like 4 different horses, like very closely. And I just feel honored that I'm in that place in my life. And I don't ride or do anything like that, but I'm just in awe of the animals. So that's me. Anything else that
I love that, Barbara. You did a great job. Wonderful job introducing yourself. And thank you too for your courage to be here. And I hope that others who are listening, maybe hearing this, will give them a little courage to come next time, that this isn't like a bunch of professional Zoom people how to have polished presentations. That's not what this is about. This is about being here because we're united in wanting to learn from the horses and understanding the power of that. So thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
All right, Peggy. Oh, I think you just turned off your video.
Oh,
There you go.
amateur.
I love it.
Yes, I am. I'm Peggy Norwood Stella, and actually, I was privileged enough to be a beta reader for Horse Wisdom.
Yes.
And I just love the book, but I think more than anything, I think connecting with you, Kim, even over the past year, and I've just come to have such a great appreciation for your knowledge and also understanding of the horse. And that's, I mean, it's just, I'm just always drawn to that. Always been drawn to horses. I mean, I have a horse of my own who happens to be in New York. And as a matter of fact, I'm located now in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I'm on my way back to New York so that I'll be much closer to Dill and to his herd. And I'm looking forward to that as well. But I think I'm here simply because of the appreciation of the horses and what you're bringing to all of us to help us gain a greater appreciation and approach to being with them. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Peggy. I'm really glad you're here. And thank you for serving as a beta reader too. That was very valuable. Everyone who was a beta reader was very valuable for me. So Thank you. All right, Kate.
Hello. So I'm Kate Evans. I am located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I know some of you through Kim's prior kind of discussion groups. And let's see, I'm not like a lifelong horse person. I really have only come to work with horses like in the last year and a half as a volunteer. And really my entree into the world of horses was through just sort of offhandedly finding an Airbnb experience while I was in Charleston on a little vacation, and it happened to be Kim's experience. And it just really touched my heart and my soul and just opened up an entire new world of, sounds corny, but just a whole new world of opportunity in my life. So I am currently volunteering at a farm where there are always more horses. There are never less horses when I go, but last count there were 35. So I mean, it's a very active, large herd. They are all together. It is exciting. It's exciting. Yeah, so I'm just, working with them on just basic horse care and doing a little bit of body work with some of them, and have developed an interest in sort of moving forward in my study of equine body work and seeing where things go with that. So kind of excited about that. And I think I just started chapter 7, Kim. I've been working through the book slowly, and I've ended up listening to it now. I sort of have tried to digest it in a number of different formats, and now I find that listening is the easiest one for me. So like it's such a wonderful book, and I'm so happy for you and so proud of you. And I think it's a really, really interesting mix of just your incredible knowledge about horses and herd dynamics and just all of their behavior, but the way that you mix in the personal stories about all of the horses in your herds has really just, it's been very moving for me to read. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kate. Thank you for
Yeah.
all of that. And
Yeah.
it touches my heart to know how impactful that meeting was, that session
Yeah.
was, years ago, and how you have really, now that horses are such a big part of your life, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Anna was also with us. She was driving. She's off now, so I think she'll be back when she said she was going to log back in when she gets home. So we'll have her introduce herself when she comes back. But yeah, so what I'd like to do now is just, I'd love to just get, some of you shared a little bit, but your general sense from the book, and it can be either a reaction to the book, reflection on the book. It can be what has been most powerful or impactful for you so far. It can be, if it's already had some kind of impact in your life, it could be about that. It could also be about your hope for what the book might mean on a larger scale, right? So anything like that, that's just sort of big picture, I guess, is what I want to start with. And again, it doesn't matter whether you finished the book yet or not to have that reflection. So is there anyone who wants to start? All right, Kate, go. Okay, we'll start with Kate and then we'll go to Peggy.
Cool. I was going to try to put on my reading glasses, and like I've been taking, part of the reason I've been so slow going through that is that I've been taking notes, which is both helpful and like not helpful, because it's all just whatever. It's a process. Anyway.
It's a process. Yes, I really want to stress that. It's a process. So
Yeah.
what we're going to be doing is just peeling layers, right? So this is just
Yeah.
a starting place for the conversation.
Yeah. So, I think like a lot of the themes that have resonated the deepest with me are things that I'm sort of working through in my work with the horses where I am right now. My work, I've been volunteering at a women's a shelter for women who are experiencing homelessness. Sorry. and just in my own life, and like one of the main things that has really been simmering for me is respecting and I think that this was part of the story that you were talking about with, it wasn't really, geez, my memory is just shot, Kim. You were talking about the importance of not using someone's dead name, basically, and not speaking about somebody's trauma story.
That was Shoki, yeah.
Thank you. It was Shoki. It was Shoki. Thank you very much. And like, I've been thinking about that a lot. I mean, with my own stuff and sort of things that I'm going through with the women that I'm working with at the shelter, and then with the horses, because I think, you know, like, I've been so intent with the horses on seeing, you know, doing my best to see them as a human being can see a horse, and acknowledging their experiences and acknowledging the pain and, you know, reasons for mistrust that they've gone through and all of that. And I think in some ways, like, it's infantilizing a little bit when I think about it, especially with the horses, because it doesn't, you know, like Shoki had said to you, it doesn't necessarily acknowledge their heroism and sort of their trajectory as beings, and their sort of innate heroism. So like, I'm really trying to come to terms with meeting other beings with an understanding of like what, as best as I can understand it, what they need, what they want, instead of my preconceived notion of what that would be.
Yep.
And like, I think it's really easy to get caught in that savior trap for all of us. And like, I certainly have, you know, have fallen into that myself, you know, because like the first entree that I had into this was working with very traumatized horses at a rescue where all of the horses were new and just shell shocked and having a hard time, in a very unstable herd. Yeah, so like, that was, I have so many notes and things written down, but like, that's the one that's really sort of, you know, simmering real hard for me right now, is just, you know, really respecting like someone's whole story and not only their trauma story.
Yep.
And recognizing that you can kind of like see that and be like, I recognize that, I respect that, and now we can move on and talk about like how you want to move in the world.
Absolutely. And how you are moving in the world, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
those trauma paths are there and they do show up, and we have to be willing to recognize when it's showing up and have empathy for that, and ask that question you're asking, what do you need from me right now if I can support you? But also, I think what happens a lot of times is their trauma triggers our trauma, and then we just stay in it, right? And we think that they haven't moved on because we haven't moved on, or something like that.
Yep.
Yep. So
Yeah.
I love that you are playing with that, and it's a good place to practice, I think, with the horses. And then there's so many applications in our interactions with other humans.
Yeah.
Does anybody, I want to say, does anybody want to respond to anything that Kate just said, before we go on to other thoughts?
This is going to seem like maybe it's, I don't want to say irrelevant out there, but I did something today, and I hope I can keep it together doing this. So I am a gardener, but I also, I understand plants come and go, and I get it, but I had a pretty cool day at the barn today, and it was crazy. It was like wind chill of 15 degrees, and like there was no like horizontal snow. It made no sense, but I really felt like I needed to get there today. And I came home, and as a gardener, I noticed sometimes it's really sad to me, like the magnolia blossoms, like probably not like what you guys get down south, but they come out and sometimes they last for like 30 minutes, and then there's a frost and they die. And bottom line is, I went outside and coming in the garage, I noticed like all my bulbs, and they're mostly daffodils, had just all been blooming all over the place like last week. And we literally have had snow like 3 times in the last, I don't know, few days. Like they are literally, they're drooping. And it would have really been a bit depressing before, but this is something that came from working with Kim and working with the horses. And I'd done some other things with the horses earlier, but this, I don't know, this hit me. And I just went around in the cold and I just looked at all of them and I just said, I see you. You were pretty for a little bit. I'll see you again next year. I'm so sorry what the weather's doing to you. But so instead of, because I have all kinds of trauma, I'm a trauma therapist. It's so easy for me to join in the trauma and there's a difference between joining with someone and joining with their trauma. And I just said, no, I'm going to instead appreciate how beautiful they were and acknowledge them. And I got that. I was inspired to say that from what you had said, Kate, because like I always fall in the rabbit hole of being in other people's trauma, and I'm exposed to too much of it to keep doing that. And you know what? It felt beautiful. It didn't feel. So thank you, Kim, because I learned to do that with the horses, and I said maybe what works with horses works with daffodils.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful.
Thanks for not laughing at me. Now I'm thinking all these people that didn't even know we're going to see this recording, but I did that today, and so be it.
Don't let that go, right? Let that judgment go. It's just beautiful. Thank you for that authentic sharing. And I think I got a lot out of that, because I've been we had the same thing here, just one frost, and I lost a bunch of my flowers, and I was like plucking off the dead ones today. And it's a struggle, right? To not be, but I love what you said, is just like, thank you for what you showed while you were here. Okay, so we've had Anna's now back, and Nancy just joined us. So I'm going to stop for a second and let Anna first, just a short introduction. Tell us who you are, where you are, and maybe where you are in the book, or if you finished the book, as just an introduction. Go ahead, Anna.
Okay. I am Anna Fox, and I live in Virginia, just outside of the Warrenton area. I have been a horse person since I was 8 years old. And so I do teach, but I also have been a 911 dispatcher for the last 15 years. And I am about halfway through the book and loving it so far, highlighting lots of things, which is my way. So, but yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Anna. And then Nancy, if you'll just give yourself a quick introduction.
Hi, sorry I'm late, working.
No problem.
Nancy Munoz, and it's always tough when you ask these kind of introductions, because I am not a quote unquote, I don't spend my life with horses all the time, and I don't work in the horse industry, although I'm a certified path instructor and I do have horses. And my day gig is actually music management and production. And I am through the book, love the book, and passionate about proselytizing horse wisdom with Kim. And I've long been involved in philanthropic activities, and we have an organization called Free Horse Arts that combines inclusive arts education and equine experiential learning for people of diverse abilities. And Kim and I have collaborated on programming, both online and in person, for Free Horse Arts, and have started a Liberated Equine Connections group to support people that are engaged in this kind of work.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy. And tell you're in Richmond, Virginia, right? Yes. Okay. So what we were doing is just going around and kind of like giving everyone a chance to say what was a big takeaway or an overall general impression or something that particularly spoke to you from the book that you've read so far that you wanted to share. So Kate shared, and then Barbara was responding to that. And then Peggy, I think you had your hand up that you wanted to share an overall something general. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yeah, I think, gosh, there's just so much in terms of takeaways, but the thing that that strikes me is, I think from my own journey, and I think there's a lot of us who've come through that journey of sort of that traditional approach of being with horses that we learned as kids that never settled with that, right? It was something about, it's just like that never just quite settled with us, and we were always curious or always wanting to know, there's, isn't there something else, or isn't there something better than these traditional training methods? And then you kind of go through a variety of different methods of being with the horses, only to come back to, I think, what's just the core of your message, which is just be with them and allow them to just be as well. And I feel like that I just know there must be so many people out there that are in maybe even in the horse world, or not, or maybe not quite in the horse world, but they just love horses. But the only thing that they've seen as a way of interacting with the horse is to actually get on and ride.
Mhm.
And to realize that there are so many other enriching ways of enjoying their company and being with them and allowing them that freedom. I feel like there's a lot to say here, but hoping so much that we can, get this book into the hands of those people who are struggling with not feeling in alignment with the old methods, and yet still, rather than, the going through one method after another after another after another to try to find something to be able to move forward into something that enlightens them in such a way to know it's like, oh, this can be done I can approach this kind of in any way I want, as long as I'm make it central, the horse becomes the central figure, and the appreciation of who they are and what they're bringing. Anyway, as I said, that's just for me, the biggest takeaway, as well as like the biggest hope, is for the benefit of the horses.
Yeah.
That we humans, in wanting and appreciating them so much, can learn how to be with them and to let them be the glorious creatures that they are. and and I love like just how your book just stays on that theme.
Mm.
Oh, or no, in so many different ways, but that for me is what came out for, like a key piece for me. And just wanted to express that, because all I can say is just hoping that this can get into the hands of a lot of people. So
Yes. Thank you, Peggy. And it's interesting that everybody who showed up tonight does have horses in your lives. So you are in some way horse people, I do want to say too, though, that anyone who's non horse person, equally welcome in the book club, right? So it's like, I love all those different perspectives. But there is certainly, for those of us who are involved with horses, I think it resonates at a level that feels like there's just so much shift that needs to happen in that horse industry. And that feels really powerful to us when we're reading the book. But everything you just said, Peggy, can also be applied to, just learning how to be present with the person in front of us, right? And allowing a person to be who they are, and allowing that relationship to not have rules too. Like that's something about the structure of human society that we've done, where there are these protocols of how we're supposed to relate to horses, to people we work with, to people in our family. There's all these protocols that, the natural world doesn't have. So there's lots of applications there. But thank you for, does anybody else want to comment on what Peggy just said? Any reactions to that?
Sure, sort of, I think. When Peggy was talking, what was striking me from the book was the ownership is unnatural bit. And that's kind of something that I've been exploring anyway. One of my horse clients several years ago, he also is a very avid student of the Bible, and he said to me one day, he said, in the Bible it says that God gives us dominion, or humans dominion, right, over the natural world, basically animals, whatever. And he said, but I'm thinking that that's not really the right word. And so, he asked me what my opinion on that was. And at the time, I'm not a Bible scholar by any means. And I said, I think that you're right. I don't think that was really our definition of dominion is not really what was meant. And so I didn't really do anything about it for a few years. And then I think it was in being in your groups and stuff, I was like, I'm really going to do some research on this. And so I'm still in process because it's not easy to find stuff about ancient words. But from what I've been able to find is that the closest translation that I've been able to sort through was ancient Hebrew, and that phrase dominion is not the proper translation. It was actually something more like we should be with, walk with, learn from the natural world. It was actually nothing about being dominating over or owning anything. It was being with, learning from. So I'm still researching because, of course, the story of the Bible is before even ancient Hebrew, but it's interesting. And so then, that chapter in your book, and there's been, in my job, I've seen so many stupid arguments that have led to deaths over stupid ownership, like ownership of the daffodils.
Right.
Why? Like, does it matter? So yeah, that one was really resonating with me, and I'm like, yeah, so I delved back into the research again, and so my mom and I are actually looking at some like ancient texts and trying to get further into that, but it was really interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, that we're going to be able to go real deep on that chapter on ownership, for sure. Did anybody want to comment on what Anna just said? Nancy, yes.
I can't wait until Anna does some sort of social media post about, so what the Bible really was supposed to be translated to mean, and then see what happens there.
Oh, I don't think Anna's that crazy. I don't.
But obviously it was much more native. The proper translation it seemed like it was supposed to be much more native in its,
Yeah. And that's the real thing. My in-laws are actually also pretty religious, and my 5-year-old's been going to Sunday school, which I love. Like I want them to learn the stories, I did. But it's like all of like our current, at least, here in America and probably most of the other modern world, like our interpretations are based on experience and colonization, right? Like it's not based on what they were doing back when these stories happened. They've evolved, and so, and we have problems with that today, like in government and things. Even when you talk about, the Bill of Rights, when you talk about what they wrote, semantics back then were not the same as they are now. So people are trying to interpret them as they were, with our current definitions, but that's not what the people who wrote them meant.
Well, and even what's interesting is even now today, we all have the same semantics. I can't tell you how having written a book and trying to be like, I want this to be the message, choosing words that have like everybody, like I know everybody's reading this and they're going to kind of get what I meant when I wrote it, but everyone's going to also be applying their own experiences and interpretations of certain words. So language, as I wrote about in the book, is so challenging, but you're right, especially when language was different and we're translating between different human languages, and those translations are never perfect, and also meanings change over time. There's so many variables there that it's really kind of, I don't know, it's very striking when I think about how much we put at stake on words, right, in our society, that may not even be what was intended.
Right. I actually saw a meme on Facebook today that somebody had posted that said, I think dogs and horses were put on this world to show us that, emotions are not meant, how to go is something about like they're not meant to be shown through the spoken word.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's really good. That's
Really
true.
good. Yeah. The rest of life on earth doesn't have our spoken word. Doesn't mean
Right.
we don't have any verbal language, but definitely it's a gift and a yes, Nancy.
I just want to also say hi to Anya and Peggy I've met, and nice to meet you, Kate and Barbara. And just based on what Peggy said, I have the book here and I'm looking at it and thinking, so what you were talking about sharing, thinking, okay, how many copies do I need to get? So I drop one at the barn and then I drop another at another barn. Like I'm thinking, like, I just want to kind of litter the book everywhere.
Yes.
So that, see what happens.
Well, and it's so funny you said that because and I do get a lot of people who are like, it's so pretty. And I'm like, that was the point. Like, I want people to want to pick it up if they see it. It's like lure you in. So that's funny. Yeah, please drop it. The horses will thank you. Yeah. So anybody, Kate? Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to jump in. Yeah, I mean, that was like a really, really interesting comment about ownership. And like, that was actually like, I was furiously scribbling when I was listening to that part of the book. And just like, I've been thinking about this so much, like, so Kim knows this, and I don't know how many of you know this, but I'm living with a brain injury that I sustained last summer. And so, excuse me, sorry, my dogs are about to start wrestling, so I may start walking, but I've been thinking a lot since that happened. I haven't been able to work since the accident. Oh my God, I may have to stop talking, but I've been thinking a lot about kind of my role in the world and how much my role in the world revolved around my existence as a functional working person, and how that made me feel important at the time, and like how disobedient my brain has become in the scope of like what we think of as being acceptable ways of thinking in this culture. And like when I really started thinking about oh my God, sorry. And I'm gonna walk into the other room and they're gonna follow me and keep wrestling. They want to be here. Like my experience with animal quote unquote ownership has been with my dogs, not with horses. And like I just have always objected to that word owning. I'm like, I share my life with them, I am responsible for them, I do not own them. If anything, they own me. And like it's been very difficult for me as someone who's new to the horse world, seeing that so much of it is oriented around this idea of ownership and expectation of obedience.
Yep.
Which I just inherently have a problem with. Like, I wouldn't want to be treated that way. I wouldn't want my dogs to be treated that way. And like, I think so much of this, like in our culture in the US, like we are brought up, like born into this toxic capitalistic way of thinking. And I think everything, and you talk about this in the book, in your exploration of sort of like what we consider learning, like book learning versus experiential learning and social learning. Like everything that we're brought into revolves around becoming like obedient, disciplined workers. And I think that's evolving a little bit because we have a new generation of people who are more oriented to like doing their thing and being entrepreneurial and figuring out where they want to be in the world. But we're still all like, that's the axis that we turn on for ourselves and for everything else in our world. So I don't know, man, like it's just like I've been thinking about this a lot in the the scope of mental illness and like what we consider, it's like, is it a mental illness to have social anxiety? Like a lot of people are dicks. Like I think it's normal to be like anxious and discerning and wary about our interactions with other people because they are so difficult so much of the time. And like I don't know if I consider that a disorder at all. I think it's kind of normal, but we
Well,
call it a disorder, you know?
well, and also we have to question, like, why are people being mean? Why are people being rude
Yeah.
and obnoxious as well? Like, it's all
Yeah.
part of the same problem. It's different coping
Yeah.
skills, right? And
Yeah.
I love that you're thinking like, so this is what it needs to spawn initially, and we have to be able to be comfortable in that space of like, I don't know the answer right now, but I'm just starting to see the layers of everything. When I was writing about some of this, you know, I've always associated myself, you know, as my political affiliation is liberal, as part of who I am and, you know, how I feel about things. But I started hearing conversations about capitalism and socialism and communism, everything differently. And I was like, you know what? They're all just different types of ownership. I need to stop arguing that one is better than the other, when what I really understand when I step back and look at the bigger picture of the natural world, humans are the only ones that function under ownership. None of these systems, we can argue all day long about which one's better, and we're never really going to actually get to the conversation we need to have, which is, what would human existence look like if we didn't have ownership? Is that even possible? How does the rest of the world function without ownership? And we're the only ones that can't. Like, well, we can. I'm a true believer that I have seen humans accomplish amazing things. I think we can accomplish anything that we put our minds to. It's what are we putting our minds to and why? So even just opening that conversation to say, can we start playing around in our heads about what that would look like? Doesn't mean we need to solve it, or the harder part is going to be figuring out how do we release our attachment to ownership, because it's just what everything human is built on right now. Nancy, yes.
Kate, there's so much in what you said. Just
Yes.
like there's so much in what Peggy said, there's so much in what Anna said. First of all, good for you for actually being so open about your traumatic brain injury and how you know the frontiers that it's taking you through. You know, there's lots of people in our programming that have various degrees of it, and it's the fact that you're open about it is really phenomenal. And just hearing how some of that openness informs how you're thinking, not only about the book, but about so many other things. And it made me think of what Anya and Kim did last weekend. So you were talking about the worker bee mentality, right? And in the horse industry, one of the things I'm so grateful for is that Kim and Anya last week presented to a bunch of professional association of therapeutic instructors that do this day in and day out with horses, where horses are owned. They are tools, they are, you know, and completely opening up the possibility of what it might look like with a different paradigm of not just with horses, but all the other layers of what Kim unearths in her book or exposes. And I just give Anya so much credit for being in the beast, right? Just like Anna is. Anya's teaching, right? But and Anna's teaching, and Anya's in the middle of the beast too, from the inside out, trying to kind of poke these holes in the worker orientation mode, because so many instructors were like, well, wait, if we're not doing lessons in a particular way and the horses aren't working, how can we make money? How can we have programming? How can we sustain ourselves? How can we feed the horses? Like it twists so many people up. And just having this conversation and saying to everyone in the industry, it is possible, not just outside of the industry, which would really create ripples far and wide, but in the industry, I give anyone who's willing to really explore that courageously so much credit.
Thank you, Nancy. So I want to stop, say, Barbara, Anya, Peggy, anything you all want to, no pressure, but if there's something you want to say, I want to give you a chance. I have lots I could comment on, but Barbara, yes.
This one, even for me, is probably going to be confusing, but I'm just going with Mike. I just fear. That's all I keep hearing in terms of, I think if you go back, why was ownership ever necessary? It's fear. Like if we all had limited resources on an island and we just trusted that if Kim hasn't eaten for 30 days, but Barbara just pigged out this morning, and we all just say, you know, Kim needs, or let's say we all ate. I don't want to make you all pigging out. I would pig out. But the point is, she really needs the resources. And we trusted that whoever needs the resources is truly going to get them. And everyone's going to come from a place of love and compassion and cooperation and collaboration. There wouldn't be a problem. But as soon as we start distrusting each other, but why you distrust? Because you're fearing. And I'm not saying it doesn't come from some real experience, but I feel like there's a lot of different layers, and I'm not going to, because I haven't thought about this and I won't be able to articulate it. But so that was my first thought. But then going back to Nancy, it's right back to fear. They have to get the money, and it's real. They're making their living this way, but fear always is going to be, I think, the biggest hurdle.
Yes.
And back to, why are people assholes? Why are they dicks? Why are they acting this way? It's usually out of fear. And under fear is they're hurt or they're wounded and they're just trying to self-protect. But I get it's really hard to see under the layers though, because some people just, as therapists, we just say they present it as assholes because we're trying to be professional. So clinically, they present it, and we know they're not assholes. We know they're not, but that's the way they present it. And let's just face it, that, you know, people do present that way. So I'm finished. That's.
I love it, Barbara. And I love that you saw the layers there. Yes. And fear is it. And yes, the systems we've created perpetuate fear. I think too, there's, and this is something we can have fun exploring in future meetings too, is the ways that the systems perpetuate our fears or play on them or make them worse. Or one of the things you said was about how we would trust that we would give each other food or whatever. There's another layer of it that is, we've created such a complex society with so many different communities, so many different, we're trying to be members of so many different communities. We're trying to be all over the place. And when we don't know each other and live in relationship, it opens the door for a lot of dysfunctional behaviors. Like we talk about being inclusive and everything, but I think that if you look at nature, there is a certain size of community that can be healthy and functional, and beyond that, and it's different, I think, for different species and different situations. So it's not like a set number, but I think we all have to understand there's a tipping point at which the community stops functioning in a healthy way, and it's gotten too big or too complicated or too, I don't know, like it goes against some of the things that we think are politically correct to say. But we have to be brave enough to look at not just horses, they open the door, but could we look at other animals? Could we look at how their communities are? And let's just see what can we learn about why they're more functional than we are. Like, can we learn from others other than humans? So anyway, so much to all that. Anya, yes, I see your hand.
I will say, and maybe I have mentioned this before, that I certainly growing up in Germany, where everything is much tighter, people are much closer together. Of course, there aren't as many people in that one country, but everybody is closer. So it feels much, much denser. But the completely exaggerated idea of ownership I had never really experienced. So I would do things that people here would consider dangerous by just walking down people's driveways because I thought that's normal. Because a driveway or any kind of street or something is not, it's not owned by anybody. That's just how I thought things were. Although people here have so much more space. So it doesn't come from the complications or from a lot of people. the fear, I'm not entirely sure where the fear comes from, since everybody really, because people can kind of spread out more here, and there isn't that much being on top of each other. But there is definitely an obsession with an obsession with like limits and borders, and this is mine, and an aversion to shared space and public space being truly shared space, shared by everybody, not like here a public park where you still have to pay to get into.
Right. That's a beautiful, beautiful point. Anna, yes.
So going on what Anya said, yeah, like I don't know. It's so weird to me too, because I've lived in some other countries. Germany was one of them. And same thing. I mean, yeah, everybody lives closer. So you do have this more community feeling. But also for me, I grew up being a military brat and then kind of falling into the public safety world. I was sort of always in communities and I didn't really know it. I don't even think it was something that I started to think about until I started being part of your group. But what I've realized over the years is that I think our community sense has just, we became so individualized that we sort of left the community behind, and we didn't, I don't think, realize how important that was. And like, I don't understand that mentality, like, because I always had a community. I grew up in one, like, I mean, even when we didn't live on a base, I remember living in a cul-de-sac with like 5 houses, and 3 of them had children, and everybody kind of watched everybody else's kids. We might be in anybody's house at any one time. Like, it was, and we weren't all military. 2 of the families were military. The other one was not. So yeah, I don't know how we in this country got to that point of so much individualism that we left that behind. And the other thing that I was going to say, what we were talking about before was, and this kind of goes hand in hand, because I get a lot of flack for this many times, because, capitalism, capitalists have sort of become a bad word. And one of my other favorite novels is Atlas Shrugged. And what's really interesting about that, when people like will come after me just for making a comment about it on social media, God forbid, people will, come after you for being some extreme wacko capitalist. And I always want to say, like, have you actually read this novel? Because it's actually about forming a community of people who give to each other what they need when they need it. Yes, they all do have their own things. They all make their own products. They all have their own thing that they do, but they support each other when they need it. Like, so it's so that when people get locked into that fear thing of this one thing is bad, I heard that this philosophy is terrible, then we're again, now it's like a semantics battle again, because now this is a bad word, and it's not necessarily like, you can be a capitalist and be philanthropic too, right? I mean, there's no rule that says you can't be.
Well, here we go with labels, right? Here we go.
Right. Yes, which I hate, but yes.
That's what we are now, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's why, and I love the I am me part in the book too, because that's, and like Nancy earlier, when you were doing your introduction, I'm like, yeah, I kind of hate introductions too, because I hate saying this is what I am, because it's not what I am,
Yeah.
And also, if you asked my horses that question in terms of describe Nancy, like they'd say something totally different.
Totally crazy, I'm sure, right?
Oh my gosh. Well, and so as you were talking on one of the things that came to me and it isn't something that I don't think I really actually addressed directly in the book, or not per se, but it's this in addition to individualism, we've really gotten to this place where like things are good or bad, right? It's
Right.
like there's these extremes, and I've stopped after writing this book. I have stopped even thinking about things in terms of good, bad, good, evil. I used to, that whole concept of like, that's the paradigm that we have to look at the world in. And I've started seeing everything as balance or imbalance, right? And it seems so much healthier to be able to talk about it in that interdependent way. And it's like, can we start feeling like the horses do when the community or something starts feeling a little off balance? And then can we figure out what do we need to adjust instead of just being this absolute, not that, this good, that bad. Anyway, that I definitely think that's one of the things that we need to figure out how to unbridle ourselves from that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And I have to say that I think like I've always tried to sort of have that mentality, like the balance thing. And, my parents were very good about teaching me, like, there's not good versus evil necessarily. I mean, and living in different places all over the world, that certainly helps. But I struggled in 2020 with my job and the protests that were happening. That almost pushed me over the edge. Like I really had to remove myself and because I was getting into everybody's trauma mindset, and it was just like, so I see how it happens to people. Like now I understand how it happens, and like once you're on the train, it's real hard to jump off, so I get it. And now I have more empathy, for people. Like, I've always talked to people who are sometimes on the train, they're way out of the station. But now it's like, okay, like I get you're this upset over that, but now I have a little more empathy because I was on a train too, and I had to jump off of it before it consumed me. So yeah.
There's a lot I love about what you just said, but in terms of like the conversation about how do we apply some of this is, I think it has to start where you just did, which was you realized what you needed to do or what you needed to shift. We want to be able to shift everybody else. And I think we can. I think when you shift, it does shift everybody else, right? So it's all interrelated, but that's one of the things I hope. Oh, go ahead.
I think, well, like you're right. And I think one of the things, like for me, like, so my first stuff was to just sort of, I only work part-time now at 911. So, and I love these people. This is a great community. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to like keep my head down, and I'm not going to be involved because I don't want to be involved in, that the trauma that they're all going through and they're going through every day. The people that work full time, they work, sometimes 5 days a week. And when I say 5 days a week, I mean, they're working 12, 14-hour shift 5 days a week, not your regular 8 hours. And then I realized that was not doing it right. Like, so I still wasn't able to regulate. I was kind of okay, but not really. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to just start sharing these things that I've learned with you guys, the people that I'm working with at the time. And we're just going to start opening up and start really talking about what's happening. And it was really an interesting shift. And we have a really good wellness team at work too. And they kind of got in on it. And we were able to just open it up, and then it was less traumatic. And we actually had people come in, and people would not probably believe this, but people from the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, Sons of the Confederacy come in and like, they're like, hey guys, we're here for you. This is not about you. This is not about us. It's just, like there ended up being such a great outpouring from the community then. And it really helped, I think, everybody kind of check back in and go, okay, we do this because we're helping people. We're not, yes, there's always going to be people that don't like us, but our goal is to help people. And so, but I think we were all in this mindset initially of, okay, I'm either going to be in this vortex of crap and anger and, or I'm going to just keep to myself, and then once we started sort of pushing the boundaries of what might be acceptable to talk about in the workplace, and public safety is always kind of like that anyway, but I mean, we even, and that really helped. So I think the only way to go through is to open yourself up and start finding community, because if you don't have other people, if you're not making that impact on other people or even other animals, it's what are you?
The point of being alive is to
Yeah.
experience other life, right? I mean, that is
Right.
the point of it. And I think there's so much in what you just said. And I know you were kind of feeling your way through like what actually happened there.
Yeah.
But you're right. You went from one type of, I guess, community that was more like anger-filled, hostile trauma response to you tried like, I'm just going to do me. Well, that's not, we're a communal species, right? And this is part of the problem right now is that so many people feel alone and feel like they have to be alone because they can't cope with all the drama.
Right.
So I think I would encourage you to reflect even more on that successful, like maybe it wasn't perfect, but what were the pieces that did allow that to open up? And was it that you were able to have a little safe community that tried it? Or anyway, think more on that, because I think there's a lot there that can be, can help us figure out how do we apply some of this wisdom and disentangle ourselves from the patterns that we're in.
Yeah.
Are really destructive. Thank you. We've already gone deep, y'all. This was supposed to be an overview. I love it. We're at 8:39 and I said I would keep these two. So we've got, about 6-7 minutes kind of to wrap up. So I'd love to hear just even if you have reflections just on today's conversation or on how you think, what was good about this discussion? I'd kind of like to know, so as we go forward with book club, what's been the most meaningful or helpful or supportive for you out of today's discussion? Anybody wants to talk about that? Anya. Oh, you're still on mute.
I'm glad to know there are others who experience this as a little bit of an uphill battle within the horse industry. And I think it's going to take a long time. And I am just afraid that I will sometimes be discouraged. So I know that I will need this community.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. The most important thing for me in the last 5 years has been gathering more of a like-minded herd with me who can lift me up. Some of you who know, I have my times too. We need to be able to lift each other up in those hard times because it is a challenge. It is a challenge. Yeah, glad you're here, Anya. Who else would like to share? Kate?
I don't even know how, it's like such a long list of great things from this conversation, but like, I've been listening and hearing everyone and also kind of madly scribbling because it's just so many ideas being generated by this conversation. And just so many thoughtful, insightful people in this group who are all coming from different backgrounds and sort of different aspects at least among these people of, oh my God, there go my dogs again. They were quiet until just now.
They really
Anyway.
want to be part of this conversation.
They
So
totally do. They absolutely do. They're like, we're here, we're in it. You should see them. They're fierce. Anyway, just it's really nice, you know, hearing from so many people who have so many different angles on this. I was going to say this problem. It's not a problem. This situation that we find ourselves in, and like this really, I don't know, this conversation, and that's a whole other thing, but like connecting this with my experience working with these women who have lost all of their privacy, all of their sort of property, all of the trappings of what we consider to be like civilized life. I'm connecting that with sort of the observations that I've made that these women are, for the most part, much less selfish than the people that I encounter in daily life who have lots of stuff. It's not utopia. It certainly is not perfect. People get mad, people get in fights, you know, people steal stuff, but like there is an ongoing interconnected awareness that they have to share stuff because everybody needs stuff and there's not enough stuff for everyone. So like, I'm gonna be thinking on this a lot. But I just wanted to thank everybody for such a thought-provoking conversation and around such an amazing book. Thank you.
thank you, Kate. And I want to have you continue in future, especially when we talk about ownership. I think your experiences with women and others who are experiencing homelessness is a really important part of that conversation, because I do think ownership, not just of horses, but ownership in general, is causing so much dysfunctional behavior in the human species. So, but yet we have so much stigma on those who are homeless, right? Yeah. Okay. Who else has something you want to share in closing tonight? This was a good start. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. There's going to be so many layers, and I also want to make sure that we don't ever feel like that in itself is overwhelming. Like each time we're just going to pluck away, right, at whatever pieces come to the surface in the conversations that we have. And this isn't about finding the answers right now. My hope is that these book club conversations just give you a little bit more to think about it in a little bit different way as you go about your week or your month. That's another question I have for you all. And I can also post this in the Patreon community with a survey, but you know, my initial thought was to have at least one a month. How often would the book clubs be helpful to you? I don't know that I would do it more than once every maybe 2 weeks, maybe twice a month, because I think there's a lot to, if we're doing the work, then we want to put the things that we talked about into practice a little bit and think on those. So we don't want to just pile on too much too soon. But maybe just quickly, any thoughts about bi-weekly versus monthly for book club discussions from this group? Either way is fine with you.
I'm a slow thinker, so I like once.
Monthly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my original thought. So as long as that feels good, or we can try that for now, then probably what I will do in the next, what I'm probably going to do from here, since this was kind of a general overview, kind of big takeaways, what was on top of everyone's mind. And then I'm probably going to start doing, like, next time will be lesson 1, right? And we'll dive deep on lesson 1, and we'll do that for maybe 17. And then we can see where we want to go from there. But that's probably how I'll do it, just to knowing that if, as you read the book, you see they're all cumulative. So it's hard to talk about one without talking about the others sometimes, because there's so much interrelated about these topics. But at least it gives a place to start the focus of the conversation. So thank you all. I really enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm so appreciative of your contributions and your willingness to go deeper on these topics, and the horses and I both appreciate that so much. All right.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.